This video is about twisted stitches and how to spot if you're doing this and how they get twisted. This is some knitted fabric, and notice that when I stretch it, okay, that the stitches are open at the bottom, and this allows it to stretch and have some give. This is how knitted fabric is supposed to look. And there are a variety of ways that stitches can get twisted. Let's start with knit rows. If traditionally when I knit, I bring the yarn under the needle and then I knit it. And if you reverse this, it places the needle, the stitches on the needle, in the incorrect stitch mount. Okay, so I'm going to do this entire row. And notice how the left leg of the stitch is towards the front. The right leg is behind the needle. Now, when I work this, and traditionally when you purl, you go into the front, and we'll talk about twisting while you do purl stitches in a minute. And if I knit in the front of the loop, or purl in the front of the loop, look what that's doing to my stitch. It is twisting it. We'll wait just a second until I get this off the needle. And you can see it. And this is a little harder to do. If you're knitting this way and twisting your stitches, knitting is not always that much fun. It's kind of tight and the stitches are sticky. Now, if I look at these stitches, notice at the top row that they are twisted at the base. And when they stretch, they are going to be much more lacy. There's going to be bigger holes between them, and that they're smaller. Twisted stitches have a different gauge, and in my blog entry that accompanies this video, I go into more detail on that. Now, if you want to knit this way, and this is perfectly okay, a lot of knitters do this intentionally to fix their tension issues. What you do on the reverse row is you purl into the back loop, and that untwists the stitch. You just have to get in the habit of doing it. And actually, it's much easier to purl that stitch through the back. It's looser, it's not as tight, and you'll be able to work faster. And you can see that that row is not twisted. Now notice I have this twisted row here, but this row, which was a purl row, is not twisted because I purled properly. Now, let me do, George, oh, he's being a pill. Let me do a purl row. George, hold on, I'm gonna have to pause. Sorry about that, George is being a pill. Okay, now how you twist stitches on the purl row is pretty much the same way that you do it on the knit row. When I purl, I go over the needle. Oops, sorry, I go over the needle. But if I go under the needle, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to alter the mount of the stitch, and it's going to be twisted on the needle. And again, this is tighter. It's making the stitches tighter, which is a reason that many knitters do this to fix their tension. Ignore that. That is a text message. Now, this one is really hard. If I go into the row I've just purled through the front like this, it's hard to work the stitches for one thing. It's hard to work those stitches, and knitting should not be this hard. Although I'm using wooden needles, so that's what's make it a little more sticky, but it should not be this much work. Okay, and you can see that I have twisted those stitches. Now, in the text that accompanies this, I've got a lot of examples of where people are twisting stitches, on the purl row, on the knit row, on both, and how to identify where you are twisting stitches if you can't make that distinction. Now again, if I am purling this way, where I'm going under, 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 and I do this often at the edges. I will twist, I will work in the opposite direction so that it tightens up those stitches. All you have to do to make sure that you've got an open form of the stitch is to work it through the back. Through the back. Now in my video, I'm going to have a link in the description to the blog entry that accompanies this video, so you can see more pictures of like different stitch patterns like stockinette where you're doing this, and you can identify. This isn't just something that new knitters do. I frequently see it in the work of people that have been knitting for a long time. And again, you can see when you stretch those stitches that they are a different size, and they are going to affect the tension